You've taken a wrong turn down Creep Street.
Citizens of the Milky Way, my name is Dylan Hackworth.
I'm Maureen Bogey.
And this is Creep Street. And this is a kind of a bonus surprise episode.
I know, very excited about today.
Creep Street, we got an awesome opportunity. We got to interview over the phone one Dave Olson from Chicago Paranormal Investigators.
Yes, this guy is so cool.
He is so cool. First of all, friendly.
Oh my God, the nicest guy.
Friendly. And we were on the phone, I would think, almost, the interview you're going to hear comes out to about 45 minutes. But, I mean, we were chatting with him for about 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
The friendliest guy and such a wealth of knowledge and stories. He had amazing stories, and we might have captured an EVP, short for electronic voice phenomenon.
That's right.
In other words, a disembodied voice.
Yes.
That, as of now, we can't seem to figure out a real-world cause for.
We don't know. Explanation.
A natural explanation for it. This happened on Dave's end of the line. Now, before I tell you a lot about Dave, before the interview, we want to address Creep Street real quick.
Yes.
Creep Street listeners, you guys are the coolest.
We are so excited and so lucky. So happy to have you all.
We are so lucky. I mean, this podcast is barely not even a month and a half old. And, we got a notification the other day that we were the 54th most popular society and culture podcast in South Africa. And I literally, if this was the Olympics, we would have won the gold medal in gymnastics. We were literally like doing backflips. That was so nice but
unexpected, very
so
cool.
unexpected. But also, we've got great listeners in the States, in the UK, Kazakhstan,
Canada, Australia, all over.
You guys are so nice, and you've been reaching out to us with suggestions for shows. The reason why we wanted to take this time up front is because we want to tell you we're working on those.
We are.
We don't want you to think that we're just saying that so you interact with our social media or whatnot. We are going to do those, and we'll give you a shout out when we do those episodes. But we just wanted to let you guys know we are so happy you're here.
Oh my God.
We are flattered and humbled, and I think it's cliche to say, but none of this would matter if no one was listening.
It's true.
None of this would matter if no one was
cliche for a dang reason.
So thank you so much, Creep Street. We are going to give you 2 episodes this week. You're also going to get your first serial killer episode this Friday.
Woo!
But we wanted to treat you to a little bonus. And just let me tell you about Dave real quick. For a long time, he was a Chicago law enforcement officer. He was a police officer and turned ghost hunter. He became a ghost hunter.
Yeah.
And please go to ChicagoParanormal.com. Their website is great. Their work has been featured on the Bio channel, on WGN Radio. They have a YouTube channel you can check out that's got a lot of, I think even our clip with the EVP is up there now. Lots of cool stuff. And also the fact that Dave just took that time to talk to us. And not only was he just a fountain of knowledge and stories, but he also shared with us personal things. His father passed away near St. Patrick's Day back in March, and he also recently lost a best friend. And the fact that he just took the time to talk to us, obviously our sympathies and condolences to him and his family. This interview is so much fun.
It's so fun.
The EVP, you're going to hear it about halfway through.
Right.
It's on his end of the thing. Now, just so you know, Dave works part-time as a security guard.
Right.
Sometimes to make a little extra dough on the side because, by the way, Chicago Paranormal Investigators, all their services are free.
That's right.
If you have something going on, something's a little bump in the night, obviously with pandemic right now, can't really see each other face to face, but I'm sure he would be happy to consult with you over the phone or at least someone on his team. All of their services are free.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So if you think you might be in need, do not hesitate to reach out. I know Dave and his team would be very happy to help you. But just so everyone knows, the EVP comes in about halfway through. Now, see, we recorded on our end in our living room. Dave was in kind of the library of this very cavernous college in Chicago. And you're going to be able to you'll hear a bit more reverb on his voice when he's talking, but you can hear both sides crystal clear. It's not that, but every now and then you will hear the echo from his phone of our voices.
Right.
So just so you know, sometimes
that's not the EVP.
That's not the EVP, even though, because I remember we were listening to it, God, this thing sounds like it's loaded with EVPs because you hear these little wisp of our voices.
Well, I was just getting so jacked up listening to the story that I kind of forgot to maybe not respond as much for that reason, but I just would be like, oh, cool. Yeah. yeah, whoa.
Yeah.
So that's what that is.
We both were, and I edited it in a way that most of that's out of there. But every now and then you'll hear little echoes from our voice coming through his phone. But when the EVP happens, you'll be able to tell.
Yeah.
You'll be able to tell.
One last thing.
Please.
A couple times we will be talking about something, maybe we might refer to it as the ambulance.
Yes, or Misty.
Or Misty. And I'm realizing after we did the interview that the part we recorded, we didn't discuss it at that. It was when the pre-interview is when we talked about it.
Right.
But so that basically when he's saying ambulance or whatever that is, they have this very cool refurbished ambulance that they kind of use as like a control center, yeah. So let's do it.
So ladies and gentlemen, enjoy this interview with Dave Olson, founder and lead investigator at Chicago Paranormal Investigators. Awesome. Well, Dave Olson from Chicago Paranormal Investigators, thank you so much for coming on to the Creep Street podcast.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for contacting me.
No, you're doing us a huge favor here. So to just get us started, you've got such a cool story. You have a history in law enforcement and became an investigator yourself in the paranormal world. How did that transition happen? How did you come to fall in love with this work?
Well, mainly after when I first started, I think everyone starts this, you want to get the home run piece, get good evidence. But, once I really started getting into the paranormal and started the team, I don't know if it's the policeman in me, but I just couldn't believe how people were scared of their home, or things affecting the children. I have a 10-year-old daughter, so I have a sweet spot when it comes to children. She was my wife and I are a miracle baby, late in life. But
that's so sweet.
But so seeing people terrified of their own home or business really became important to me. And then, going through this and working with mediums and psychic mediums, at times, now it's important to me not only to help the living, people, try to calm people down or give them answers when it comes to stuff happening in their home or business. But now, if possible, I want to help the other side. I get a lot of help me's, a lot of unexplained voices coming through asking for help. So it's important to me, if at all possible, sometimes I need to get help, is to help the other side too. If they're, for whatever reason, lost their way and can't move on, and whatever your beliefs are, I'm not here to preach, but if they're looking to go into the light and they just can't find it, it's important to me to help them, if possible, to move them on, if that's what they want.
That's so amazing. And I feel like that's a side of it that sometimes is kind of forgotten. You just think about how the living are dealing with the situation and how they're scared, and you don't want them to be scared anymore. But yeah, it's like on the other side, these like you said, these spirits, they, they're just lost and need help. And I think that's such a good, important thing that you're doing. That's really wonderful.
Thank you. It kind of sounds weird, but it's almost, through the years as doing this and as I got older, it's almost, I don't even know what to call it. I don't know if almost like a calling. I don't know. It seems like there's more out there I need to do, or there's stuff waiting for me. I need to help and push it forward,
Right.
It's almost like a mission now. It's with all the technology out there, it's not that hard to get unexplained voices, and getting apparitions is a little more difficult and stuff like that. But yeah, there's more to it than just the evidence side. Now it took me a while, to realize that, because when I first got into it, it's always like I said, the document and that there's paranormal out there. But now I realize through the years there's more to it. It's two sides that needs help.
Absolutely. Would you say, was there any skills were useful that you picked up while working in law enforcement that actually surprisingly were useful in this line of work?
Yeah, basically I think it's just to read people, especially if I get to Skype them before taking the case, or a lot of times if it's a distance, I could either Skype or just over the phone. Yeah, I think it's basically just to read people and to see what's going on, to see if it's worth taking the case, because we got to pick and choose now. Before I used to, when I first started, try to take every case, but since it's not a business for us. Everything we do, not just me but my team members, it costs us money, because a lot of times we'll have to take off work, burn a vacation day, gas, housing, food, especially if it's a long trip, 10, maybe Michigan, Wisconsin, and it's a 7-hour drive. So we'll pick and choose, and this is what I think helps. And then I have another policeman on the team and a fireman, and just being able to read people, sometimes we could hear the fear. Now, I'll give you an example, and I wasn't able to take this case, but it bugs me to this day. Over and over again, I could hear the fear in this guy's voice. It was like like a day or two before Christmas or something like that, I couldn't take the case, even though it was an emergency, because I had family in from California, and then Christmas is a couple days off. My wife would have killed me. This guy's a businessman. I could hear the fear in his voice, but he calls up. All I remember, it was in like Ravenswood Manor, right off the river somewhere, kind of where maybe the old mayor lived. No, I'm not the old mayor, the old governor. He bought, I think it was a 2 or 3 flat, converted it into a single family home, and whatever happened, he stirred up activity. And this seemed a little more sinister. He was desperate. He didn't know what to do. He wasn't sure if he should take his family out of the house, right away. But it first started with noises, lights flickering on and off, and doors closing, and stuff like that. But then what really scared him, I think he called me the next day, was he heard a big noise downstairs, and they're all up in bed, upper level. So he goes running downstairs, and he sees his dog being dragged backwards. The dog's yelping, and the dog's being dragged from behind. But he doesn't see anything, and I could hear terror in his voice. What do I do? What do I do? I just felt so terrible because it was, like I said, a day or two before Christmas. I couldn't help him, and these are cases like that. It means a lot, a lot to me, to see if I could give this guy some relief. Maybe I can't, but I want to do the best, or I could, if I can't do it and I'm able to document stuff for him, maybe I could lead him to other people, as long as I could supply evidence, that could help him out.
And I'm sure it doesn't help. There's also just the unfortunate stigma. It's almost like a secret. They're almost more afraid to actually tell people. It's almost a cruel joke, really, because unfortunately it can drive some people to the bottle, or just other ways of coping.
Right. And then people worry also the stigma from the neighbors. What are the neighbors going to think, and
right,
or it's going to lower the house values, and there's a lot of stuff that goes with it. So a lot of times too, we'll get locations that they're afraid of the neighbors or what they're going to think. They don't want anyone to know. So then I got to downgrade, not bring all, won't bring the truck, the ambulance, I have to limit my gear then, and kind of keep it more stealth mode, stay inside the house. But usually it's when I do an investigation, just to limit the amount of people inside a location, because you could corrupt a lot of the evidence. It's very important, at least with me. This is why I bought the ambulance and has it as a command center, is I could limit the amount of people inside a location, and whoever's not investigating will watch the monitors inside the ambulance. So this way I have control. I know what's going on in that house. If someone's making that noise, and we got video everywhere to cover. Because I remember I had a production guy with me at one time, and we're in the basement. And one of the complaints was they could hear running footsteps. So it's me. I had a state employee on my team at the time, and film guy. I think he was a camera guy for like Oprah and some other stuff. So he was a professional. He heard it with his own ears. He's like, man, it's footsteps, and we could hear it with our own ears. So I grabbed the walkie-talkie and I asked the command center. I said, is there anyone check the cameras inside? Maybe using the bathroom or something, because we hear the footsteps. And so this is what's very important, to have a controlled environment, because if you had other investigators in there at the time, then you're going to always doubt what you get. You say, okay, well, I can't post it because now this could be an investigator. Right. It could be the homeowner using the bathroom. But, we had all the camera footage. No one was in there. Everyone was in the command center that wasn't supposed to be in there. So now I could say, hey, this is evidence. What is so cool about this is we went up from the basement, tried to figure out, okay, where these footsteps were coming from. And it was in the living room. And the cameraman at that time had a very sick daughter. And he called me like the day before and said, hey, I can't make it. My daughter's going into emergency surgery. And I'm like, hey, family first, I understand. But he called me later as we're setting up the gear, the next day. And he goes, my daughter had the surgery. Everything went fine. She's heavily medicated. She's going to be out for several hours. Do you mind if I come meet you? And I'm like, yeah, whatever you want. So, he comes. So it's like the spirit knew. It's unbelievable. We heard the footsteps then. We went upstairs and we're trying to figure out, okay, the stairs kind of curved. So the footsteps would have to come this way. And then Dave, the camera guy, goes, no, you know what? The stairs curve. It's got to be right across the TV here. And a voice answers him. And now this is an intelligent spirit. This is one that knows you're there. And it tells him, you shut up. You're not supposed to be a part of this anyway.
Wow.
Now, Now that show, I mean, it's talking to Dave. It's saying, "Hey, Dave, you're not supposed to be here anyway." That's an intelligent spirit. That's the difference between residual and something knows that you're there. So that one always sticks with me.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. I can't even imagine. Yeah. So do you find that you more often get the more intelligent haunting or intelligent being, or is it more a residual? Is it worse kind of 50-50? Like,
I would say it could be, well, you know what? It might be a little more on the intelligent side than half and half. It's close because it's hard to tell unless you get it communicating with you. Because I know there's times we capture conversations, but we don't believe they're talking to us. We think it's something going on back in time that we're able to capture. Maybe a talk between a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, and a wife. Like, for instance, I was at a gangster place, and I think there was possibly a domestic going on, and we get a male voicing, "I want you back, Sonia," and some other stuff. But this is not intelligent. This is trapped energy that we're just able to record that's out there. And, there was other stuff. It sounded like they were going back and forth with a conversation. But then I walked into this location. I didn't know this was going on at the time. And as soon as I walk in, my camera caught what seemed like an apparition just disappearing. And next thing I know, I get a voice, and I believe now it's saying it to me from being residual. Now it seemed like something was intelligent. And it goes, am I allowed to swear, or do you want me to just bleep?
Oh, no, you can swear.
and this one made the biography channel, actually, that clip. But it goes, "You're fucking dead."
Cool.
So yeah, before that, it was like a domestic going on or something, back and forth. And it sounded like this, I don't know, maybe it was a stripper or something. This was in a stripper area. And the guy's pleading, "I want you back, Sonia." And then there was other stuff back and forth going on. And then I ended up walking in without knowing. And then I get that voice and that possible apparition dissipating. But it goes back and forth. But, you never know 100% sure. Unless... I'll give you another example. This would be intelligent. This was that same gangster place. No one was in the location at the time. Everyone was in... I didn't have the ambulance then, but I had a big trailer, enclosed trailer. Everyone's in there. We're about to discuss the plans on who's going to go in first, who's going to stay at the command center. Kind of doing like a roll call, almost. And a siren goes by. I don't remember if it was a cop car or an ambulance. Now, whatever spirit in that location heard that ambulance or heard that siren, and, you hear the siren going off. As soon as the siren stops, we capture a voice in that area saying, "Help me." So that would be intelligent. I can't say 100% sure. I would say like 90% sure because it's responding to the sound. So, but there's other voices we captured. I'll go back to this gangster place because if you could imagine like the Sopranos, this location was like that. Strippers, illegal gambling, and prostitution. It's been raided several times by the police, FBI, the county, and stuff. So,
and I'm sure that's just like a magnet for all of that supernatural activity.
I'm sure there's people were murdered there, tortured, that owed money, and stuff like that. So, and I'm sure there's probably people buried, on the premises somewhere out there. And they had underground tunnels back in the day. But this was Rocco de Grazia's place called Casa Madrid back in the day. Oh yeah, so we got that location gave us a big mix of residual and intelligent. Like I would walk into a location, and I think this would be residual, but it was a female voicing, "What do you want?" Up and down, "That's all I do," and stuff like that. And then, or there was a conversation. There was a female, it was a very faint voice. She goes, "Suck your blank." You know what I'm saying? I get a male voice responding to it saying, "Do it," and another male voice saying, "Want some." So that's residual. That's activity going back on, maybe from 1945 or something. So that would be intelligent there. That would be residual. So there's a difference. So and unless you get it responding to you or answering intelligent questions, there's certain things out there that might help. They say locations that have limestone or maybe running water, anything near water seems to help create energy. But you think about it, some of these hauntings or things going on might go way back before the location was even built up. It could go back to when it was farmland, back before they even had cemeteries. People would bury people on their own plot of land, and even going back to the Native Americans when they owned the land here before it was taken away and stuff like that, or driven out. But there's so much everywhere. To be honest, and I can't prove it, but I at least right now I believe no matter where you go, no matter where I go, I bet I could pick up something. I think it's everywhere. It's energy. Now, I was going to say, and like I'm not here like I said, to preach and stuff, but it kind of opened my eyes. I do believe. I mean, I always believed in God, but I wasn't a big church goer. I mean, I go a little more now just to get blessings and the help for any negative activity attaching to me. But I try to have all my stuff blessed. From crosses, the holy water, and medals of St. Michael's and stuff like that, just to help out. But it opens my with doing this, dealing with mediums. I definitely do believe that with people passing. Now, I was worried. My dad just passed St. Patty's Day, and I was so worried. I was talking to him.
Sorry.
Thank you. That it happened so quickly. I honestly don't know if he ended up dying of the coronavirus, or they're saying it was the flu, but he was at the nursing home, medical problems, and in and out of the hospital. But kept on telling him over and over again, and I do believe in this, dealing with mediums and getting a lot of help me's. Now, I do believe that for some reason, when you pass and you don't move on, your energy's stuck here and you're an earthbound spirit. Now, there could be several reasons why you don't move on. Maybe you were a bad person and you're taught you're going to burn in hell if you're afraid to see what's up there waiting for you, so you don't go to the next level, whatever you say it is, the light, heaven, whatever. There could be other reasons, maybe you suddenly died of a heart attack and now you're worried who's going to take care of your wife and kids. Whatever the reason is, I was worried about my dad when he passed, that it went so quickly that he wasn't going to move on, and my sister and I kept on telling him, we're fine, you did a good job, make sure you meet your two brothers and parents, go into the light with them. And I think he did, because I didn't feel him. Sometimes I could feel it. It's another sense that started, that sometimes it seems I could feel that they say the spirit world is vibrations and frequencies, and lately it seems like I'm able to tap into that a little bit. I do believe for some reason, people don't go to the next step, and now that earthbound spirit, and that's that energy that we pick up, we feel. A lot of mediums I deal with say, if you do move on to the light, you could come back and visit, even maybe come through in a voice, but it's a different type of energy. It's not that heaviness, that tingling, feeling you get. But I do believe in that, and this is, to me, it's important now to help spirits that want to move on. And they say, and I can't prove this, but the mediums I deal with, and they don't even know each other, and they all say the same thing, that you can't force an unwilling spirit to move on, only if they want to. You might be able to do things to decrease their energy, or maybe to send them outside a while by saging and everything, stuff like that. You can't force them out unless they're willing to move on. And that's what I've been told, and that's what it seems to be. They have to be willing and ready to take the next step. Even doing this, and I do believe, but it's still hard for me to admit it. I'm wowed. I'm like, at times I still can't believe it. When things happen like that, or I just try to keep an open mind, until I experience it myself. That's when I truly end up believing, okay, there's something going on. I mean, I'll give everyone a fair chance, and I'll keep an open mind, and sometimes I'll doubt it, but then when I experience it for myself, I'm like, wow, and that's even starting the team. Even I started buying equipment in 2008, and when I got where I'm talking to you now, it used to be the Chicago State Hospital, the Dunning Institution, mental hospital, mass grave site, just still thousands of bodies here. And I had employees from engineering, security, the housekeeping, talk about stuff going on, especially over the midnights that they experienced. And I still believed, but I'm like, they're full of crap. But then some of the guys are 50, 60 years old. I'm like, why are they going to make this up? And so I started buying equipment, and I remember my very first legit EVP that you could make out. I remember it said, "What are you doing?" It goes, "What are you doing?" And then I got a little bit after that, I got to get out of here. And I'm like, oh my God, it's true. There's stuff out there. So that's when in 2019 I went nuts and really started investing money in equipment and formed a team. And so it kind of took that for me to take the next step to experience it myself. Yeah, because even now, and I was probably the same way, when it comes to stuff on YouTube or on video, and I still catch myself, oh yeah, right, that's not real, or that's faked, or, someone altered something. But, I still have that skeptical at times, but even though I'm able to capture stuff, I just know the way I am. I'm you can even ask my team members and stuff. After an investigation, it takes me weeks. Sometimes I'll get no sleep. I'll go through, if I have 15 DVR cameras going out there, maybe 8 to 10 handheld camcorders going out there, maybe 8 to 10 voice recorders going, depending on the size of the location. I got to sit minute for minute, second for second, and go through each footage. And then if I get something, now I got got to match it up with every voice recorder, every piece of video footage, just to make sure that it's not one of us accidentally making this sound or if it's someone outside making it. So it takes me a long time, and I take pride in it. I mean, it's very tough to do, but when I put something out there, I'm like 99% sure it's legit. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm only human, but I do the best I can. But then, some of the stuff you see on TV, especially when it comes to all this stuff like with poltergeist stuff, stores flying, cabinets flying open. I'm not saying it can't happen, but that stuff is very rare. You might have stuff going on for 10 hours that day, and you might only get 5 minutes of evidence. So if you veer off, fall asleep, or not pay attention, you could easily miss it. Yeah, I would say a few things offhand. I would say the EMF meters, a lot of them are made by people in the field. The EMF meter, it's basically a meter. They have all different types, from digital readings to stuff you touch or light up, makes sounds, but it's supposed to pick up basically spirit energy. Mainly the meters were built for the purpose of paranormal stuff. That's one piece of equipment. And then you have these like ghost boxes, spirit boxes. So there's different names, portals, that they took devices that were made for other things. Like, say, for instance, a ghost box is basically, you'll see it on Ghost Adventures a lot, or some of these other paranormal shows. It's basically, at one time, was FM and AM radio. They made it into, it basically scans radio frequencies, and you could set the scan rate, but most of them are at a high rate of speed. And I always keep mine most of the time at a higher rate of speed, because if you get a voice on there that's the same voice back to back, or even back, sometimes I'll get a full sentence of the same voice, and that's impossible. It's because there's times I got the F-bomb, swear words coming through, and you're not going to get an FM or AM radio station dropping the F-bomb. I know it's legit. You just, through experience, you gotta know what to weed out, and what is legit. I mean, there's stuff you could have it going for an hour. You won't even get one voice, and it's just the right timing or the right location. I could be in a basement and get nothing for an hour, and then boom, now it's active. It's just weird, and now I start getting voices coming through. But I'll have voices coming through. A lot of times they'll like to say my name, my full name, first name, last name. Sometimes I'll get a lot of help me's coming through there. But even using these devices, there's no guarantee these are the same spirits that are haunting the house, or maybe in the house. You might be drawing energy outside the house that's coming through trying to communicate. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. Like, I'll give you an example. I was asked to do an investigation at the Elmwood Park Library. A lot of the employees were there. Yeah, it was really cool, and there's stuff going on in there. But we had a medium do a walkthrough, and she goes, Dave, there's so many spirits that has nothing to do with the library. They're coming from outside, in and out, almost like a bus station or train station, back and forth, and, for whatever reason, they're just walking through. And so when you're at a location investigating, and you are getting voices, unless you're getting intelligent responses coming from, stuff that's in the house, or with names of family members, or something like that. But otherwise, you might be picking up stuff, like I said, that happened a block or two away, or spirits that are just wandering that haven't moved on yet. Like, there was a funeral home half block away, when we were there, some of that activity might have been coming from the funeral home. I mean, I'm not sure. You always got to keep that in mind too, because it seems like energy at times is not stuck. It seems like it could wander, just like it might be able at times attach to me and I bring it home. So we got to keep that in mind too when we're investigating, because stuff you get might not just be from that location. It could be other stuff coming in. The most easiest thing to communicate at times is with a digital voice recorder. For some reason, it just seems the easiest to try to communicate with. But then again, unless you get a visual, like with me, when I'd like to be recorded as I'm doing EVP work, so people could see that I'm not moving my mouth when there's voices coming, or I'll like to there's a few people, like to have a visual of them, so that you can see what the people are doing, because if a voice is coming through, I'm going to have my doubts, saying, okay, I can't see the guys, that could be the other investigator's voice, or this or that. It might be a night vision camcorder. Yeah, so this way you get a visual, and you could get EVPs coming through, the audio of the camcorder. If I'm true to myself, it's hard for me to admit it, but I'm pretty sure I have some type of ability. I think my daughter is actually was born with it too, but I was talking earlier, as a kid, it seemed like I could always feel, I didn't know what it was, and at times I was able to hear. I remember, I gave the example earlier, I remember at times getting my mom, wake her up and say, Mom, come in the room, I hear these muffled voices and I don't know what they're trying to tell me. Of course she wasn't able to hear it, but so as a child, that kept my mind kind of open, okay, this is a possibility, but I just wasn't sure if it was me going nuts or what the story was. But as I got older, I still had that ability. Like I'd say I'll walk home and I still hear it at times, now, but I'll hear a female voice calling my name clear as day, Dave, and I'll answer. Maybe I'll be yelling upstairs or downstairs, Anna, I'm here, and thinking it's my wife. Wow. There's no one home, there's no one outside, but I'll hear that voice clear as day calling my name. And then, investigations and stuff, I guess it all depends on how I'm tuned in that day, because I don't hear it all the time, but there's times I'll be, in an investigation. Sometimes there's a medium there, sometimes not. I'm like, man, did you hear that? That was a female, that came from over here. And no one else maybe hears it. Sometimes they do, but otherwise no one else hears it. And now it's on the recording, so I know I did hear it and I wasn't going nuts. Or a medium will say, yeah, I did hear it. It was a female. It came from this way. So I somehow, and I'm able to usually sense, I know my body just tells me, I don't know how to explain it, but usually I could tell if it's strong, around. Like, I'll give you an example. One of my best friends died a few years back. He was a 911 dispatcher. Sorry. We grew up together. He was like a brother to me. And this is the first time this ever happened to me. And now at times I could feel it. But he passed away of pancreatic cancer. It killed him right away. He was a couple years younger than I was. But when he was I got to see him with a couple friends before he passed, the night before he passed. And for the first time ever, I felt a vibration. I had a hard time staying in the room. It felt like my body was shaking, but I wasn't shaking. And it, to the point where it was making me nauseous. I mean, I know I was upset, and you got to think logical. Tell me, okay, I was just upset, and that's what I was feeling. But if I'm true to myself, I know something was going on. And the only way I could describe it, I think I felt that opening. That he was, how can I say, whatever you want to call it, the light. He was in that transition stage because he died a few hours later, where maybe that doorway was opening, whatever you want to call it. And I'm feeling that vibration of that opening of him transitioning to the other side. So I remember even when he was during the wake, I had a hard time going to the casket. I could feel there was so strong that vibration, but the day he was being buried, it was gone.
Really?
Yeah.
That is so fascinating, and I think that just really shows that you're in tune with this, and maybe even these spirits or entities or vibrations on some level know that you are open to it and know that you can feel it in our...
No, that's why I think my group and I think we're very lucky when it comes to some collecting this evidence, because I do think they see maybe me, and there's a few other investigators on the team that seem to, they're mediums, but they have some type of ability, and I don't know if they're just drawn to us because being able to communicate, and we could see them, hear them, or something. But I think that's why we're very lucky as a team.
Right. Yeah, I think that it seems to me, I have never...
Could you hang on a second? I just heard a female voice.
Oh.
Did you hear that?
Oh, no,
Holy, give me a second. I got to walk over. I got to look over the railing.
Check it out. This is so cool.
There's no one in here.
Oh, wow.
That was a female. That was to my left. I'm in the library. I'm in the library at Wright College on the 4th floor, all the way up.
Wow. And was that you saying hello?
Yeah, that was me. I was trying to see if I could get an answer by anyone.
Because it's funny, Mo and I were sitting here and we just heard someone saying hello, and we were like looking at each other like, oh my God, I hope that's him.
Yeah, because there's, other than the director of security, myself, one other security guard, there's a housekeeper or two and an engineer that's in the building, but there's no reason why they should be in here. And I don't hear any movement.
Wow,
you would call that a disembodied voice because you heard that with your own ears.
Yeah, I think we even might have heard it faintly on our end through the phone.
Probably on the voice recorder here, that should have picked it up.
Yeah, I'm sure when we hear your side, I bet we'll be able to, the recording of it, we'll be able to really, really hear it. It seems like I think that this is just mind blowing. Like, it's like they, or whatever is going on, could hear that we were talking about how you are open to these things and kind of sensitive to it and have some sort of ability. And then kind of as we're talking about it, something happens. I just think that's so fascinating.
And I was going to tell you, but I don't want to interrupt, or since you can't see it, I was going to wasn't going to say anything. But a minute before that, I had the charge on my hair was up and I had goosebumps. And I was going to mention something, but since you can't see it, you're probably like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. But seconds later, that voice comes through.
That is so amazing.
And the thing is, if it was someone walking, it sounded close. I would hear the footsteps. I would hear noises. And before you guys called, I was hearing tapping on the wood chairs up here, on the tables. A few times I had to get up and look because there was something, I should have been able to see it. But yeah, I'm like 90% sure that was a disembodied voice. I'll double check when I leave, when I'm done with you guys. Of course, I'll have to do my investigating and I'll make sure check with the other people that are in the building here to make sure they weren't in the library. I was like, what I'm going to do too is to confirm it. We got a camera system. I'm going to see if anyone walked into the library around this time.
Oh, great idea. Oh,
but just the way it sounded, I'm so used to going through evidence. I'm basically the one on the team that goes through everything, so I kind of know what they sound like. And that didn't sound like a regular voice. It sounded female, but it sounded different, and it was maybe 2 to 3 syllables, whatever it said.
Wow. I cannot wait to hear your recording and see more of what that was, because that is so cool, and that you got the goosebumps before. It's just this. So I'm so glad that we got this all. We're talking to you right now. This is wild.
Yeah, and this is why the camera thing is important because like say if I was here doing a session alone and I'm getting that static charge, well, I could have took the camera. So I'm a visual person. I need to see and not just hear. So I could have had the camera and say, hey, look at the goosebumps and my hair rising on my arms, and then you get that, and then a few seconds later, I have the disembodied voice that gives it credibility. You got more than one thing going on. So you got the energy surge, plus now you got a voice that, to me, that makes it a little more legit than just one or the other. I'm sorry, there was...
You got more going on?
Yeah, there's, hang on one second, let me, there's movements. It's like someone, it's like tapping. One second is this direction, and the next second is behind me.
Right, like that couldn't really be a person, I don't think.
No, I would see it. It would be eye level, distance. If that's you, I hear you. It's probably trying to get my attention. At times, when I'm here and I'm locking down, I feels like sometimes they follow me as I'm doing my job.
Do you think sometimes when you're hearing these noises, do you think that these entities maybe aren't even aware they're doing something to draw your attention? That maybe they're just going about their day and don't realize that a living person's picking up on their activity?
I agree. To me, I don't think the activity in these buildings have nothing to do with these buildings. I think it has to do to the history of what used to be here. I wish I could find what building used to stand. If this was graves here or this. Right. This location, the Dunning Hospital, was from Irving Park all the way to Montrose, from Narragansett to Oak Park, or maybe even further west in Oak Park. So there were several buildings that house all different type of people, from orphans to the mental institution. There's a lot of shady stuff that happened. And when they built the college here, they dug up, I remember made the news. I was young at the time, but I remember made the news where they dug up several bones building the school here. And then also just south at the time there were new condos, and I remember they had a stop order. They dug up so many bones that unmarked graves, it was a potter's field, basically, the John Does, the Jane Does, and you had people maybe from the Civil War, you had the Chicago fire, and so there's still thousands and thousands of graves, that untouched, you just don't know where they are. So I think a lot of this energy goes back to the hospital. Maybe they're upset of the disruption of their grave. But yeah, I think that whatever that noise is has nothing to do with here. Maybe it doesn't even see me. Maybe it's just that's residual energy when if there was a building here, whatever was going on back then, they don't see the tables here. They probably see it as maybe a hospital room or whatever building was here before.
Right. I'm sure that it sounds like that where you are right now is just, it has everything. Like it has what used to be a hospital and it's school and some burial sites, and there was some orphans were there. Like everything that has an intense energy or an intense pull was going on there. So it's like, it only makes sense that there's going to be so many different kinds of activity going on.
I tell you, in this building I'm in, this was years ago and this opened my eyes too. It was like spring break. break. It was a holiday where there was no one in the building other than me. There was a few chains. At the end of the night, we'd have to chain all the emergency doors and make sure everything's locked down. So I know no one was in the building at the time other than me. And I saw 3 chains, and I'm like, oh man, what building did they forget to do? So I walk in the library, and I just had that sense, that I wasn't alone. And I happened to look up, and I see a shadow. This might have been the very first shadow figure I ever saw, but it was short.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, what the hell is it? I'm staring at it. I'm like, and then I'm moving my body. You got to think logical first. Okay, am I somehow making this shadow, which I know it's not me, but just to make sure it wasn't me causing it. But it was like 3 levels up. It was either leaning over the railing or it was short, like a child. I couldn't tell, but I think it was like if his arms were resting over the railing and looking down at me. And then within seconds, it floated up in the air and went like towards the ceiling or something. And I admit, I was, that's before I started investigating, and I was spooked. I couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. I remember putting the chains on and then probably did like a Scooby-Doo and got the hell out of there. But, just stuff like that. I remember another incident here where this was probably a 55-year-old man. It was a Sunday, no one was here. He was here alone. And when I first started here, we used to bring a black and white old TV back and forth from the counter to our office in the back. Well, he was bringing the TV back, and he's rounding the corner where our cafeteria is. He has his head down, not looking forward because, he's there alone. He doesn't have to worry about banging into anyone. And he swears by this, and I could even, I could read his voice, and I could just tell. I could tell it scared him. He said he had his head down, round in the corner, and he sees a pair of legs. Without realizing, he's like, "Oops, excuse me," and he thought he was going to ram someone head on. And as he moves to the left, there's no one there, but he goes, "Man, I saw a pair of legs, hips, pair of legs, and feet." Shoes. So it freaked him out, and the security door was maybe 20 feet away, so he put down the TV in the room, and he came back out, and he hears like someone crying or moaning. If I remember right, I thought he thought it was a female or a child, and he's looking everywhere. It's pitch dark outside, everything's chained up, to the point where he's like, someone's going to be outside an emergency door, so he unlocks it, takes the chain off, opens it up, no one there, but he hears the type of moaning and crying, and he said he was terrified him so much he just stayed up the rest of the night and go in the back. There's something's going on in this building. And then once I opened my eyes, then I started experiencing stuff here. I remember I got locked in a room here. I've been in this room several times. You got other officers that are scared to go in there. Actually, big muscle-bound officers, like could be wrestlers or football players that don't like to go in there. So I'm like, give me this stuff, I'll do it. And so I go in there, and I caught EVPs and stuff in there, so I know now there's stuff going on. But I went back there, and it's pitch dark. I just used my phone. I put my phone on record, and I get locked in, and I can't. The key won't turn. I can't open it up. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to unlock it and go out the emergency door, set off the alarm, and go all the way around back in. And then finally, it just maybe after a few minutes decided, okay, I'll let him out, and it opened up, and on my recorder I caught a male voice, and I caught him laughing. He's like, and he said something like kind of locked in or something, he said. But so that would have been intelligent there. So
he was just like playing a game with you there.
Yeah, nothing here is harmful. I mean, it's still, you're only human, it still spooks you, but I got to tell myself, okay, it's just, it might be different if you go in a prison or where there's nothing but nastiness and, it's murderers and stuff like that, or maybe a gangster place where in life that they had no problem murdering someone. That's a little more spookier. But here, it's just people. You gotta, I gotta tell myself sometimes, okay, it's just energy of people, living people.
Yeah, I have never experienced anything like that, but I just know that I try to tell myself at least that if I were in a situation like that, I know I would just be so scared. I'd be freaking out. But hopefully in the back of my mind, I'd be able to be like, okay, this is probably just a person, it's probably fine.
There's been a couple times where I was scared. There was a couple things that happened to me that I almost gave it up. I wasn't sure what I believed when it came to demonic, and I still don't know what I truly believe, but I think after this happened to me, I think it's a very good possibility out there. I think it's very rare, but I do think now it's out there if I'm truthful. A case I never did. It was probably on one of the videos, so maybe it sounds familiar, but it was a fireman's house. He didn't want no part of it because, if it got leaked out there, he didn't want psych leave or, say, hey, you're crazy, something's wrong with you, or get suspended or fired. But they did construction on his house. Whatever they did, it stirred up something sinister in the house. They experienced a lot of negativity. It seems like he started having night terrors, screaming bloody murder like he's being attacked. So he went to sleep studies, saw doctors. This is the God's honest truth, and this still freaks me out to this day. So sleep studies, they can't find anything wrong with him. He never has it at the firehouse, only at the house. She started recording some of his episodes, night terrors with her phone. So maybe she had 5 or 6 recordings on her phone. And I'm actually here at the college at the time. I get a call. Never met her before, never spoke to her before. She goes, I'm so-and-so, I found you on the web or whatever. And she started telling me the story. So it was time for me to leave. I punched out and I'm heading home. It's about 11 o'clock, 11:10 in the evening. And she says, yeah, I did these recordings. Could I play them for you? And so she calls me back from her home phone, and she's on her home phone, and she's playing the recordings from her cell phone, over the speaker. So it actually was terrifying listening. Now you hear the succubus or the incubus. It sounds like he's being attacked, and some of it was sexual. God. Was kind of embarrassing, the wife to play it, but it was actually, it was, it was crazy. So I pull up in my driveway, and I stayed outside because I wanted a clear signal, and I don't want to wake up my wife and daughter and stuff. So it's pitch dark. I'm standing in my driveway, and she goes, "Listen to this last recording. I hear a female voice moaning his name." But over the phone, I heard something, but I couldn't make it out. This is the God's honest truth. Within seconds, if you could picture like the Exorcist type voice, that's how I can describe it. That sinister, whatever that, I can't even make that voice up, but whatever that voice is, demonic sounding voice comes through the phone line. Now, I didn't even know this was possible. This was an eye-opener for me. You see stuff, you read stuff, and you're like, all right, it's bullshit or whatever. But now I know it's true. Right. This voice comes through the phone line, and I'll never forget as long as I live the laugh, the sinister that type of sinister laugh and voice. And it's blocking me from talking. It's blocking her from talking. But at first, I forgot. First, I thought it was her playing a joke, and I started getting angry. I'm like, I think this is funny, wasting my time like this. She goes, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You don't hear this voice coming through?" She goes, "No, Dave, I hear your voice going, or your phone going in and out at times, but I don't hear a voice. It's talking over her, so now I know it's not her." And it started moaning her husband's name, whatever it was, Teddy, and she goes, "I heard that. Now it's moaning my name, David. And the phone lines went dead, and I'm standing in the darkness. I'm in shock. My jaw is probably laying on the ground. It's like, what the hell just went on? What's going on here? And I swear to you, within seconds, it felt like 2 to 3 fingers started going, pushing in my throat where I couldn't breathe. I could feel it's cut my windpipe, and I could feel the pressure pushing it in, and I'm starting to freak out. The only thing I could think of, I leaned into my car because I left the window open, and I grabbed the cross. That was the only thing I could think of that was on my rearview mirror, and I put that on, and then it went away, and I'm just freaked out. She calls back a minute later, and she goes, "Dave, I'm so sorry. My home phone's broken. I can't get a dial tone anymore," so she had to call me back from her cell phone. And from that point on, every other word, this voice just came through talking over us. I never got her address. I never set up a date to go over there, and it lasted about a half hour until she was so freaked out, I was freaked out, never came about, and we just hung up. But I couldn't sleep for like 2 or 3 days. I didn't feel right. I felt like something's dark was always watching me. I almost gave it up after that, and I never even handled the case, but I always wondered, what if I went there? I don't want to give up. I got to always worry about my family, myself, and my teammates, but this is stuff I'd like to document to show that it's out there. But yeah, that's a case that to this day still freaks me out, and like I said, it almost made me give this up because it opened my eyes. Okay, now if there's anything demonic out there, I think that was possibly demonic. That would have been my first demonic case, and sorry, it still freaks me out talking about it. It brings back the memories, but
oh my God, I can only imagine. Just hearing about it, I have chills. That is so horrifying.
Yeah, and I think that's rare. I don't think that, most of the cases are not like that, but that would have been the first one. And there's been cases I've been told by mediums not to take. She's like, "Dave, it's not worth it. There was one case by Bachelor's Grove. It was a house and was bothering the husband and wife, and I was told by two different mediums, don't do it. And the weird thing is, I was visited before I called the mediums, it's like it showed itself to me. I remember I would see a black mass. I never told my wife this, but I would see a black mass to the end of the bed to the right. It was darker than dark, and that was right after I got the call about this case. And for 3 nights it was there, and I'm just trying to, it's just me, just trying to think logical. But then I called a medium because I didn't feel right about this. And the first medium goes, Dave, don't take it. It's going to bring you nothing but negativity and cause problems with the marriage. And demonic's purpose is to draw negativity, suicide, whatever, negativity in your life. She said, don't take it. So then I told the team, this is what I was told. We'll do a vote on it. I'm like, you know what? Let me call another medium. So I called another medium deal with that was in Wisconsin at the time, and she knew nothing about it, but said the same thing, Dave, don't take it. And they both described it as a shapeshifter. And I didn't know if I even believed in this stuff. You see it on TV. And she said it came from Bachelor's Grove, one of the most haunted cemeteries. I don't know if you ever heard of Bachelor's Grove. It's south. They say it's one of the most haunted cemeteries, and there's a lot of documentaries and stuff on it. But anyway, they said it came from the cemetery, and it would shift as a person and then drop a four-legged beast. And both mediums don't even know each other. Both said the same thing. And this is what came. And the first medium, I forgot to say, she goes, Dave, you've seen it. It came to you already. And she had no idea that I was seeing the mass. She goes, it showed itself to you. And she's warning you not to take it, or there's going to be consequences. But she described it as a jackal when it was four-legged, but then would shape-shifted as a human. And it's so, saying this, it's so hard for me to believe in that. So the second medium said the same thing. So I was going to cancel the case. I told the homeowner already. I said I was warned. I said, my daughter at the time was maybe only 2 years old, and I said I just don't want to take the chance. I said I'm so sorry. But then the second medium called me up maybe a day or two later. She goes, Dave, it's gone. Whatever came, I don't see it anymore. Wow. And it's gone. She says, I believe it's safe. You could take the case. So I ended up taking the case, and nothing happened. But yeah, it's just weird. And I know she's not lying. She described the whole room, the whole house over the phone. And so I know she described the color of the walls, the way the bed was set up, and
like she's the real deal.
Yeah, and so when I got there, I'm like, oh my God, it's the same color of the wall, the way the bed is, and so I believed her when she said it was clear, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. But, that opened my eyes. There seem to be some evil stuff out there. I don't know if it's demons or not. I got no proof of that, but there is some sinister stuff out there.
Right. I completely agree. Whatever you want to call it. Yeah, there's some evil exists.
Yeah, after them cases were, like I said, I'm not overly religious, but now I'm like, okay, now I got to protect myself, my family, my team. And this is what got me into the saging, using the holy wood. You burn it just like sage, the Palo Santo wood, the anointment oils, getting stuff blessed, and stuff like that. So it took this kind of stuff happening to me to open my eyes and say, hey, this is warnings out there. I got to start protecting myself, my team, my family, and stuff like that. So it was an eye-opener.
Totally. We actually have some Palo Santo, and I'm going to burn it right after we finish.
Well, that's good. Yeah, because now, it seems like it can come through phone lines, if it's powerful enough. But yeah, I was told by the mediums, I usually, what I try to do now, and it seems to work, is I'll use regular sage, burn it through every room, every corner. People do it different ways, but, they say to try to do it throughout the whole house, even if you have crawl spaces, even if you let it in, the crawl space, if it's in the basement or attic, open up the trap door, let it in there, go through every room, all the corners. I tend to do mirrors now because because it seems like I've been able to catch some stuff in mirrors. So now I believe at times mirrors can be some type of portal or something. I don't know what I want to call it, but now I tend to believe that sometimes mirrors could be
like a conduit of some sort.
Something, yeah. I just don't know what to call it yet. But so now I seem to sage mirrors and even antiques. I don't know if you're one that tend to go to antique stores or get something used. I do believe now that sometimes items can hold energy. You know, might not have any problems, and now you buy a used piece, and now you got problems in your house. You know, so they recommend you could try saging it, but the mediums I deal with say get a spray bottle of water and sea salt, and whatever you buy used, before even putting it in the car, to spritz it. They describe the sea salt as like if you were frying something in a Teflon pan. You know how nothing sticks to it. That energy is supposed to slip off with the sea salt and water. And they say if you feel like you're also don't feel right, that you may have an attachment to take a sea salt bath. I've never done that yet, but they recommend doing that too.
That is so interesting.
I do believe things hold energy, and this will be my last thing, and because this proved it to me. We went to a house out in Appleton, Wisconsin. She had all kind of stuff going on, and all type of different. She was a medium. She just moved in that house, and spirits follow her, and because of the reading she gives over the phone, so she has no problem with that. But there was something evil. Yeah, I got attacked in that house twice. Something, I walk in there within 20, 30 seconds, something rips open my face right in front of her face, and in front of everyone. It happened right in front of them, and it attacked me again about 2:30 in the morning. And I was actually scared to get some sleep there because I had a long drive home, and I needed to get an hour or two of sleep before driving home. But anyway, one of the spirits, we were able to link to a fake fireplace she had. She didn't know the history of it, but she saw it on the side of the road, so she liked it, and she's an artist too, so she goes, I could fix this up nice and use it as like a fake fireplace artsy piece. So she brought it home without realizing there was an attachment to it. And it took a while for us to figure it out, but she would see a male spirit leaning against the fireplace with his like elbow to the shelf or whatever, or the fireplace, the mantle or whatever. And it would go from that to the hallway and then over her bed, stare at her when she's sleeping, and then back to the fireplace. Well, she didn't link two and two together, but after finding the history out, this fireplace, the reason it was on the side of the road, the man died, he committed suicide, and this was his favorite piece, I guess, the fake fireplace. So his energy was attached to it. So once that night we removed the fireplace from the house and put it on the curbside, she no longer saw that spirit. So that opened my eyes. Things can hold energy. Yeah, it just took stuff like that to open my eyes and to experience it for myself, to see, okay, that is true, that it can hold energy.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, thank you so much for taking this time out of your schedule. And obviously, this will not be the last time. We will be reaching out to you in the future for sure. What an interview.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like listening to Diane Sawyer.
Oh, my God.
You were a Diane Sawyer. You were and I was a...
Oh, you were Tom Brokaw.
I was a Brokaw. We were just a regular Brokaw and Sawyer.
Nailing it every fucking which way.
But let's break down that EVP.
Yes. What was that?
First of all, let's play it a few times right now.
Right. Yeah, I think that it seems to me, I have never...
Could you hang on a second? I just heard a female voice.
Okay, and I told Dave this. Whatever it is, he could clearly it sounds female.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily mean it is, but it sounds female.
Right.
I'm hearing 2 syllables. Now, what what they're saying, I'm not sure, but it's whatever it is, whether it's 2 1-syllable words or 1 2-syllable word.
Right.
It sounds like, because it's like a
it kind of sounds like maybe hello.
Right, like
but like hello. I really can't. I'm just putting that on top of it. I don't hear this voice saying hello, but it could be hello.
Because what I told Dave, you ever been like walking and you slip a little bit on ice? You don't fall down, but you slip enough that you kind of go, whoa. You're catching it almost sounded like, to me, it sounded like someone going, whoa, like they're catching their balance.
Right.
And Dave went, you'll hear it. You can hear him. He's like, hello. You can hear him. He's checking it out.
Right.
They have security cameras there that I guess are motion activated. He went, he looked, there was no one in the library at that time when it happened. So who knows?
And it's weird too, because EVPs usually work where you oftentimes, they'll just have a recorder going and they'll ask questions, or they'll just have the recorder going without prompting anything, and then later you listen to the recording and then you can hear an answer on the recording when you didn't hear anything originally.
Yeah.
But this is interesting because we caught it on the recording, but also Dave heard it in real time. Dylan heard it too. Over the phone. I didn't hear it, but Dylan did.
It was very dim.
Yeah.
So much so that I didn't even mention anything.
Right.
He had apparently been hearing activity on his end for a few minutes, but didn't say anything
Right.
until there was that outward vocalization. And then he actually, as you heard, he stops, says, hold on a second, I think I heard somebody. Clearly a voice.
Yeah.
Now, whether someone happened to just be walking in and, oops, wrong place, and walked out. But, well, we're in the time of quarantine. There would be no,
Why would
certainly, at
people
least
be there?
not students at this college.
And it wasn't the three of us.
It wasn't the three of us.
So-
We were in our apartment hanging with banshees. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for this special little bonus episode of Creep Street.
Very cool.
My name's Dylan Hackworth,
I'm Maureen Bogey.
and this is Creep Street. Citizens of the Milky Way, good night and goodbye.
Goodbye.